Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a magnificent Monday so far. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you've had a great start to your weeks, despite the cryptocurrency market's current action, and that is what we're going to be getting into in this video. This is going to be our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we've got quite a lot to share with you. We're going to be diving, of course, into Bitcoin, into the cryptocurrency market at large, which has of course sold off today. We sold off last Monday. Monday is becoming a bit of a dumpy day, and I think that has quite a lot of correlation with Bitcoin and the kind of equity market being quite correlated, and we're going to talk about that as well in this video. The S&P, I think the S&P has opened, but even if it hasn't, we can look at the futures, which I think had sort of opened down, and markets across the board right now are going, there's a lot going on in regards with monetary policy, and that's really leading the cryptocurrency market, which is why we're going to bring up this rather confusing chart that I will explain as we get on with this video. We'll look at the FTSE 100, which is one of the stock indexes for the UK, talk about the dollar, and go over a number of articles. This one reads, is Bitcoin a risk on or a risk off asset? Maybe it's neither. So we have high inflation and everyone piled into Bitcoin and its price shot up, right? Not quite. And that's a real question or a real topic of discussion at the moment with this correlation that we're seeing between Bitcoin and your equity market, which I think is largely there as a result of institutions being in both markets and, of course, now in the crypto market. And that's why they're taking risk off the table. Talk about, of course, Grayscale, a spot Bitcoin ETF, and a little bit about what's going on right now in the world, because there's just so much going on. It's a very uncertain time and markets are acting accordingly. And that's one of the main things. I see these weird and wonderful reasons every single day for why Bitcoin and crypto is selling off. And the answer is far more simple than people like to make it. And it has everything to do with the macroeconomic landscape. For those of you that didn't watch my video yesterday with Francis, it was an hour or so long, and that was only part one. And we're talking about a lot of what's currently taking place right now. And one thing I really want to lead with to start this video off is that crypto is not going anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes in the cryptocurrency market, you have periods like this. It's not the end of the world. It's not the last time that you'll find yourself in a situation like this, which may be tough for many of you that are new to the cryptocurrency space. But what you always have to remember, and it's why it pays to take a longer term view, is that crypto isn't going anywhere and it's only going to get bigger. That's something I am very, very confident in. And when you have situations like we're currently in, it's how you deal with them that makes all the difference. Do you panic or do you sort of ride the storm, which is what I intend to do? I've been in crypto. I had the luxury, the pleasure of going through the 2018 to 2019 bear market, which really gave me quite a hardy approach on the cryptocurrency space. It's why I look at the bigger term time frame and understand that this is a technological revolution that hasn't even started its kind of adoption yet. I mean, we're seeing it becoming more and more adopted, but in the grand scheme of things, yes, there might be a higher number of people that actually own cryptocurrencies, but in terms of use them on a day-to-day basis, we're nowhere near that yet, and that is to come in the future. And we speak about that, the failing of the current financial system that we're in and the moving to potentially a new one that blockchain is involved in yesterday's video with the market sniper. So go give that a watch if you've not already. What's going on for Bitcoin? Well, the overall market is selling off. Of course, this is largely led by Bitcoin, or is led by Bitcoin, which is right now led by the kind of macro backdrop. We had spoke about a number of things on the weekly. We had spoke about this bullish MACD cross that we had, which was typically a good sign, but this is inverted now. And it really goes along with the kind of sentiment at the moment, which I think is in fear, potentially extreme fear. We'll drop down the time frames and we'll put a number of patterns on that we kind of had in play. We can get rid of the MACD at this point. We had this structure here that we were paying attention to, and when we came back to this sort of 40k range, we were holding it quite nicely, but we hadn't seen any kind of a breakaway from it, which is typically the precursor for more downside continuation. And it's not the first time we've been below this trend line, but it may be the first time that we close below it, potentially signaling some more downside. And right now, really, Bitcoin is in essentially a range that it's trading, that you want to, if you were a trader, you'd be trading this range here up to here, and you'd be sort of, you're at the wrong side of that range, kind of meaning that you may be looking to come down to the lower side of it. And these are some levels that you really want to pay attention to. You want to look for your sort of 37k range, and then coming down to your 34k, and then failing those guys, your next big one, of course, would be down here at your sort of 30k. You want to watch these, because Bitcoin is still in a larger downtrend, and that's, echoed across the entire cryptocurrency market. And there's two ways to look at this. I am very neither here nor there. Of course, if crypto goes up, amazing. But when crypto comes down, that's when your real opportunities present themselves. And that's what I'm looking for right now. I'm looking to ape into the cryptocurrency market. I'm still very largely in crypto, but I have quite a bit of stable coins sat on the sidelines that I'm really looking to deploy. And I'm going to see where the cryptocurrency market finds its feet. I'll be deploying at both of these levels, and of course looking for this big one down here that we may not get to. But what I feel the cryptocurrency market could really do with right now is kind of a capitulation event. And what I mean by that is quite a sharp stab down that we get out the way of. So something like this, we see a kind of brutal sell-off, then that creates opportunity like I'm talking about. It becomes more attractive to buy Bitcoin, and then you can get that kind of momentum move. What this market is missing right now is momentum. It's very rage bound, very trader driven. Traders are having a wonderful time trading these ranges at the moment inside a larger range. And I kind of feel like, we could do with a capitulation event to see that upside continuation at the moment to kind of bring that momentum back into markets. And markets right now are really just driven by the overall macro backdrop, which you can see here in this chart. So Bitcoin, of course, is in Bitcoin orange. Here we have the 20-year plus iShares ETF for bonds, which is largely leading things. Bonds are kind of a way to, they're kind of almost like a voting mechanism on confidence of the economy. And you can see right now they're absolutely throwing it down. We have covered this with the crypto sniper or the market sniper and really explained what's going on here. Again, that video came out yesterday, well worth a watch. It is an hour long, which is, we live in a very ADHD-driven world, but it is definitely worth sitting through that hour and watching that content, as there's much or a lot of very valuable information that can be taken from it. And it will kind of help explain a lot of what's going on right now. So in the red, we have the S&P 500, and in the blue, we of course have the NASDAQ, and you can see just the correlation here right now. Bitcoin, in actual fact, as it's a higher beta, is often leading these. So Bitcoin is a 24-hour market, which of course sold off, and the S&P actually sold off with it. I'll take a look at the futures quickly, which of course is a derivative of the S&P. Very much similar, but you can see that that's kind of opened on a bit of a downer in a kind of broader downtrend. Is this just a dead cat bounce potentially? That is a certain scenario. Do we see that lower continuation? Well, the macro backdrop, I think, would actually support that. And this is why we need to see a decoupling for the cryptocurrency space. We won't look at the FTSE. I was going to go through the FTSE quickly, but we'll save this for another video. What we will look at, though, is the dollar. So very, very interesting where the dollar currently is. What you guys have got to remember, and we covered this in yesterday's video again, here was the March 2020 when everyone ran into the dollar because we had that massive capitulation event which saw people run out of assets and look for safety into the dollar. We're at the same place that we were back in March 2020, basically today, yet Bitcoin is, 4, 5, 6 times the price of what it was back then during that capitulation event, which is extremely significant. Even if you want to count Bitcoin at 10k back then, if we look at this kind of range where it was at 10k, without the capitulation event, you're nearly 4 times higher today, guys. And that's something, it's always good, like I say, to go back to that kind of long-term time horizon. The crypto space is doing just fine, and it's got a lot longer of a journey to go on. And that's something you need to remember. And these kind of short-term moves are irrelevant in one sense if you're a hodler. Traders, they're quite good for. You want volatility in markets so that you can trade. But again, markets are really just driven by the overall sort of sentiment right now, which is a pretty negative one. There's no getting away from that. And this was an interesting question that I think is definitely worth asking. Really annoys me how CoinDesk do this with their layout. I prefer the old CoinDesk layout. Anyway, opinion. Is Bitcoin a risk on or a risk off asset? Maybe it's neither. So we have high inflation and everyone piles into Bitcoin and its price shot up, right? Not quite. So you would think, but then of course there's this argument that gold's similar, that with the high inflationary numbers that we have, I think it's 8.5% in the US, 7% in the UK, I think, might be a little bit lower. Can't remember the exact CPI stat. You'd think people would run to a lifeboat like Bitcoin. Well, the reason that isn't happening is just simply because, you know, the sell-off has really been caused by people taking risk off the table, institutions taking risk off the table. This was a far more laddered exit than something like this. And we're still seeing this overall downtrend, in my opinion. You know, and it's this range that you really want to watch. You want to find some support here and get that continuation set up in a bigger broadening, a bigger structure for a kind of macro continuation, which I do think we're going to get. I just think that we've got a little bit of chop until things sort of start to sort themselves out, which I do envision potentially coming at the back end of this year. And of course, you know, we've got major things taking place for the cryptocurrency space, like regulatory clarity, which is going to drive the next level of adoption, which is something you shouldn't take your eye off. But this is a real good question, because this is kind of what we're seeing. Back to the dollar chart. Last time the dollar was here, Bitcoin was around about 10k. It's now at nearly 40. It's done absolutely fine, guys, on a kind of macro picture. It's a matter of when, not if, the SEC approves a Bitcoin spot ETF, says Grayscale CEO. This is coming. This is also going to be a huge driver, but this is probably going to come with regulatory clarity. And of course, China's, you guys can read that word for yourself, policy locks down a city 3 times the size of New York. Are we going to see this become a resurging, or making a resurgence? And are we going to see similar things take place within the West? I mean, that's something I'm watching. Could be a potential deflationary event like we saw back in March 2020. You know, we're really watching. One thing that I'm paying and really watching out for is a capitulation event that I can ape into crypto with, because my belief in the cryptocurrency space, and that it's very early on the journey that it's on, is strong. And I'm looking for entries here. I still hold a lot of cryptocurrencies that I don't plan on cashing out for the next 5 years or so. But I would always love to pick more up. And I think if an event like the one we saw in March 2020 presents itself, I'll be absolutely aping into the crypto space and taking full advantage of what is a very early technology, in my opinion. So that is really all I have for you in this video, guys. It was just a real short and sweet one. It's Monday. You know, nobody likes to see the cryptocurrency market sell off. But remember, there's huge opportunities to be had here. If you know you're kind of brave enough to take them. So that's really it, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Mondays, and I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. We're going to be really ramping up the content, covering a number of different subject matters within the cryptocurrency space. One that we're really going to cover is showing you guys how to farm stable coins. If inflation is high at the moment, you don't just want to be sat there with your money in a bank. All my money, I am all in crypto. Through the cryptocurrency space, I can gain exposure to fiat, I can gain exposure to gold, I can even gain exposure to the stock market. And we're going to be showing you how to do that and really manage a portfolio and grow it without taking on volatility risk that you have with holding Z cryptos. And lots of people are sat in stable coins at the moment because they're waiting, like myself, to deploy back into the markets. So that's really all I have for you in this video, guys. If you've enjoyed this content, a like is always appreciated. So is a comment. I look forward to catching you in the next one. Thanks a lot.